Okay, hello, Deadheads. I have something a little different for you guys today. I invited my friend Ed Martin, who runs the 31 Days of Dead Instagram account, to sit down and talk and create. We each created our own dream first sets of like our favorite versions of first set songs and how it would go down. It's an extremely subjective selection of things, but maybe some people might like kind of a curated look into Grateful Dead music, or just it's just like a fun project for us to try out. So this is our first set. We are going to be doing a second set later on down the road. Thanks as ever for your viewership and for spending your time here. If you enjoy this at all, please hit the subscribe button and get to know us a little better here at the channel. And thank you very much for watching. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Black-Throated Mercantile, who I'm going to be seeing tomorrow out in Las Vegas, and Dyer on the Mountain, and New Springfield Boogie, and Krystalyn Jade. It's great to have all you guys supporting the channel. And yeah, it's just a total pleasure to get to make these videos. So thanks a million for watching. And without any further ado, here is my conversation with 31 Days of Dead. Thanks a lot. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm joined tonight. It's evening now that we're taping this, once again by Ed Martin, who runs the 31 Days of Dead Instagram account. And Ed and I have been talking about this project for a while. We're going to just dive into our totally subjective dream sets. So this will be the first set tonight. And we'll do Ed's, and then we'll get into mine, and we'll have a little discussion about the song selection and all that good stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. Here's Ed Martin of 31 Days of Dead.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me. I am ready to get my nerd on with you.
Excellent. Let's do it.
All right. All right. So you'd like me to start with my my dream set list, I guess, right?
Yes.
So, all right. So first of all, this is such a difficult thing to do, and if you ask me next week to create a list, it probably would be a little different, as it would be for anybody. So this is my dream first set as of today, I guess. So the opening for me would be Shakedown Street. I mean, I love Shakedown Street. I love Feel Like a Stranger too as an opener, but I like something that's funky and gets the jam on right away, gets the job going, get your dance on. So there are many shakedowns to choose from, but the one I think I'm going to choose for my dream first set will be 12/31/84 from the San Francisco Civic Center. It's a 17-minute show opener on New Year's Eve. You got a rolling thunder start with the drums. It's a very energetic and funky version, relentless. I think new ideas and themes keep emerging as the jam just keeps evolving, and it's just a slamming version, and I love it. There's a lot of other great shakedown streets out there. 6:30/85 is a favorite of many people. I easily could have put that on. I easily could have put on 10/25/79 as well. As there's so many shakedowns, but I think there's a nice sweet spot for shakedown in 84 and 85, and so this is the one I chose, 12/31/84 for my set opener.
Outstanding choice.
Thank you. So the follow up to that would be Minglewood. Got to get the blues tune in there. That was a common thing the band did, especially in the 80s. And I love what Brent does on Minglewood. For me, Minglewood is for Brent, and I love what he does in the B3 organ. However, I deviated from that a little bit, and the version I chose is from Madison Square Garden on March 9th, 1981, where Brent actually ditches the B3 organ and takes this grungy synth clav solo, which is just hair raising. I think it's the only time he did that, and it's so great. I had to include that on my list.
That's I know that version from the In and Out of the Garden box set that I otherwise wouldn't know it, but I thought that was such an inspired choice that they put out that venue centric leading up to the St. Stephen bust out, but all those shows are phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a great mega one too. That one stands out among them. All right, great.
Very unique, very unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I chose it for that reason. But I mean, there are many other Mingwoods I could choose. I mean, Brent just crushes it on the organ. It's really his thing. So follow that up with Bertha. And I chose Bertha from October 23rd, 1989 at the Charlotte Coliseum. So this is the tour where the band, started in Hampton as the Warlocks. They were really riding a very big musical wave. They were on just really crushing it. So that was the tour. You have Addicts, Dark Star, Help Slip, Franklin's, Death Don't Have No Mercy, all these bust outs. And kind of hidden in between there is just, a common song such as Bertha. And this Bertha is just really head and shoulders above a lot of other versions. I do enjoy the version, the straight ahead rock versions from the early 70s when it came out. But this one, Jerry and Brent just really nail it on the Jailhouse verse, and it just kind of just goes through the roof. So I like this version of Bertha.
Is that the is that the California earthquake night, or is that the other night? It is. Yeah. That's a great first set. I love that first set. I've listened to it a bunch, but somehow the Bertha didn't catch my attention. But you're right about the band being in fine form, and that's a phenomenal first set.
And they played Bertha mid-set. Usually Bertha was a show opener. Maybe once in a while it'd be close to the end of the set, but it certainly was never in the middle of the first set. And this time it was. And so it kind of tells me that they really wanted to play it. They were hot to play it, and they were going to really perform it well. So sometimes that's just the way it goes. So,
yeah, right.
So, and then I followed that up with sometimes the band would do Bertha Greatest Story Ever Told. So I threw in a Greatest Story Ever Told, but I took one from the 70s. This one's from 8/21/72, the Berkeley Community Theater. This is when the song was relatively new, and there is that jam that they would do at the end that kind of sounds a little like the Golden Road chords that they're playing. And on this particular version, to me, it's an underappreciated version. A lot of people look to 9/28/72, which has the St. Stephen jam, and of course, everyone looks to Veneta. Just kind of like, I think everyone thinks every song from Veneta is a special version, and it is. But this version of Greatest Story Ever Told, I think this is the one. In my opinion, 8/21/72 is the version. Jerry's wah wah solo is just unhinged. Yeah, it's great.
That show, well, there's a few nights on that run. I think there's a He's Gone. I get the dates all mixed up, but one of the nights, Bill Graham introduces the band, and in the first set they play He's Gone, and I think it's better than the Veneta one. It's really this like hearty version. Those were great shows. The band was in great form right before Veneta.
It's the week before it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's after the Europe dust has settled. They had played a summer tour, and it's that West Coast stretch at the end of the summer, man. Those shows are phenomenal.
Yeah, don't sleep on anything that straddles Veneta. I also heard on Sirius XM recently the other one from 9/3/72 from Folsom Field and Boulder, and that other one is, I mean, that could have easily been played at Veneta the way it sounded. So.
I didn't know they played Folsom Field way back in 72. Huh. I'll definitely check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that was a bonus track on one of the official releases.
Oh, really? Huh.
72. Yeah. Definitely check that out.
Interesting. Yeah, we could do a whole show about just Veneta and those songs, but yeah, awesome. Okay.
Yeah. All right, moving along. Then Half Step Big River from Boston, 5/7/77. So we just had the anniversary of that recently. For me, in my opinion, 1977 was the year for Half Step. Um, this version, it may not peak as hard or as high as Englishtown, but I would argue that this one peaks pretty damn high. And unlike Englishtown, this one stays high throughout. And then also, of course, you get a massive ass kicking Big River segueing out of it. So,
Unusual. Yeah, the Big River. That is that the only time they ever did that?
if they did it another time, it probably was in 1977, maybe at one of the Palladium shows or something like that. It would have been on that tour, but it wasn't done often if it was done again at all.
Yeah, man, that night in Boston is something else. In a great week of Grateful Dead shows, it's stellar.
Right.
Um,
The Holy Trinity, as they call it.
yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah, the I-90
today,
special.
I posted something. So today's May 22nd, and of course, May 22nd, 77 was Dick's Picks 3. And somebody put a comment on that post for me that said that this is the second Holy Trinity of the 21st, the 22nd, and or maybe the 19th, the 21st, and the 22nd. I think that's
what's is it the Fox, Lakeland, and Pembroke Pines?
Yeah, Pembroke Pines. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, what's the Trinity of this week's? What are the three venues?
So just those three. So it would be Fox Theater,
Fox, yeah,
F19, and then I guess it's Lakeland and Pembroke Pines.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Okay, great.
So okay, so we got that. Then we're slowing things down with Candyman.
Oh, good.
I love Candyman. This version I chose is from 10/3/87 at Shoreline Amphitheater. The thing that gets me with Candyman is the underwater effect that Jerry gets on his solos. You probably can tell me what exactly he's using on that, but I just love it. Anytime the band would play Candyman, I would just wait for that moment where Jerry would turn that effect on and play his solo.
Yeah, it's his Phase 100 phaser, and he had it rigged so there's a speed knob that crams the wavelength. It makes the if you think of the Keene College Jerry Band recording they opened the set with Sugary, and it's got the very slow phase sound on that, and he had it on a foot pedal so he could change it on the fly. Otherwise, you have to like bend down and twist the knob, which he couldn't be bothered with. So they had it rigged. I don't know if it was in 87, if going that far back. But it allowed him to essentially get a lot of versatility out of his phaser pedal. And that sound is like, that's a key example of it. That were one time where you would use the fast phaser, which I love that. I love that sound too. And that's all those.
I knew you'd come through on that. I knew you knew what that is. So thank you for explaining that to me and to everybody. But yeah, this particular version is great. He really uses it to great effect here. He crushes the solo, brings it to very big crescendo or fever pitch. It's just fantastic. It's a standout version. His singing is great on it, and Brent is great on the keys here as well. I struggle between this one and there's an older one from 1974 from 2/24/74, which is an amazing version as well. And I call that one, when I posted that on my account, that because that's where Bill Graham makes the comment that this is a Sunday night and something about that peace. And so I always joke in my post there that Jerry's solo from that Candyman could probably create world peace.
Yeah. I remember reading that this year. Yeah. That's awesome. Those shows. So like the October, now that I'm a little older and not just looking at a rack of tapes totally out of context, but like that's what made me jealous of the Bay Area Deadheads would be going to those late September, early October shows at Shoreline or the outdoor event, because it's still kind of summertime there, and the Dead made there's a bunch of really good shows in that same kind of like 10-day window They started playing Shoreline every year, I think, right during that same time frame. There's really good. The one in '91 is really that they play Dark Star that night, and there's a great Baby Blue encore. I forget what night it is, but it's late September. It's right in that same week. That's awesome.
That Dark Star might have been in the first set too. I think the one you're talking about, possibly.
I think you're right. Yeah. And it's not like it's a run of shows that's not attached to a tour. It was just like hometown gigs.
Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Then my next choice, I wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit, so have to have some Pigpen in there. So I chose the Hard to Handle from 8671 from the Hollywood Palladium. I mean, had to include some Pigpen. I'm really, hopefully I don't get crucified for this, but I'm not a big fan of Pigpen's long, drawn-out raps. To me, you also?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they were probably great to see live, but I don't think they translate well to tapes and later listenings. So I'm kind of a fan of more concise Pigpen songs, and Hard to Handle they kept on a pretty short leash, but it packed a big punch. There's a lot of power in those Hard to Handles, especially that little special jam they did at the end. And this version, I mean, it's well known by everybody, and I mean, how could supposedly Jerry dropped to his knees during the solo, so how could you overlook this version? It's certainly one of the best ones they've done, and surprisingly, they played Hard to Handle for a few more weeks. I think the last time it was played was 8/26, which was just a couple weeks after this, and then it was never played again.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal show.
Like, we can't play it any better, so we're gonna just stop playing it.
Yeah, that show is phenomenal, and that's a great choice. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think a lot of Pigpen's raps have. That aged great. I don't know how to put it in the most polite terms. That's not to say it was all bad. I mean, like the Bear's Choice, Katie May is magic. It's delicate and like just exactly like grabs you right by your solar plexus. But that's an awesome choice. Yeah. Hard to Handle right there in the middle of the first set is a great place to put it. That version is stellar, awesome, fantastic.
Thank you. Then we'll slow it down again. Jerry, when I see the Jerry band, his structure was always kind of like a fast song and then a slow song, fast song and a slow song, just to kind of keep the dynamics going. So, like you, I loved Row Jimmy, and so I chose Row Jimmy. I know which one you chose, and I love that version. I chose 320/77 from Winterland. There were many versions I could have chosen. I did choose this one. As a musician, I really appreciate on that solo that everyone loves, how melodic and beautiful it is. And I just keep coming back to it. And so I'm drawn to it. That's not to say the versions from the 80s and the early 90s where Jerry kind of had that echoing effect on his solos, kind of like almost like musical raindrops, like he does in Looks Like Rain. I love that also, and also the way Brent would take a keyboard solo as well. So it was hard to not choose one of those versions as well. But just because of how melodic this solo is and how beautiful it is from 320/77 Winterland, that got the nod from me. And then as you said, from the Duke show, 4/12/78, that one, where they get into the reggae calypso part at the end there, that is just untouchable as well. So.
Yeah, the first time we talked, we kind of focused our discussion around unreleased great shows. And is there an official release in existence from that couple of Winterland shows in March of '77?
Not yet. If I had to bet, that's got to come out at some point in time. Maybe they're waiting until the 50-year anniversary, which will be here in a few years.
Yeah, because those shows are. I have to confess, it wasn't really until this year that I visited them. I talked one of my conversations with Blair Jackson. He talked about being there for the first Scarlet Fire, and that's kind of, oh wow, I guess they had to happen sometime. So I went and listened, and you're right, they're amazing. They're amazing. Their band is, you know, it's the thing they always talk about 77. Like they had been in the studio with sort of the taskmaster Keith Olsen, and they're sort of like whipped into this different version of Shape, you know, and there's like dynamics, pocket, and all this feel with all the songs. There's the new material. It really is like a, you know, everybody talks about May, but like those Winterland shows are something special.
Yeah, they sure are. So I think they'll see the light of day as an official release. I do. So
I agree.
Moving on, I'm trying to keep this, within reason, but it's hard. So I have a few more songs in my first set. The next one is Cassidy, another jammed out song. This version I chose was from 10/12/83 from Madison Square Garden, the day after the St. Stephen bust out. And this one just has a really intense buildup, has perfect touchdown, and the band just absolutely nails it. So I like this version. I did include it in one of my 31 Days of Dead projects, and so I put it on my dream first set.
Nice. I mean, Cassidy is so ubiquitous in the first set that the 83, those versions are awesome. I know I've listened to it because again, it's on that box set, but I mean, I can sort of just picture the pieces of what make it great. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That show, by the way, also has an amazing Cold Rain and Snow as well.
Oh, really? Huh.
But anyway, so then now for that Cassidy, they followed up that Cassidy on that Madison Square Garden show with Cumberland Blues. So I said, well, maybe I'll do the same thing, except I'll choose the Cumberland Blues from Europe 72, which is April 8th, 1972, which is just, it's a face melt. It's, psychedelic bluegrass. The harmony vocals, everything is just nailed, and that's why it's on the album. It is album perfect.
Yeah. What venue is that?
That's Wembley.
Oh, Wembley. Oh, yeah. Right at the beginning of the tour.
Yeah, the second night. So, and the lead song on Europe 72. So
right, that's what the album starts with. Wow,
it's special. So
yeah. Good choice. I wouldn't have. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. And then again, slowing it down a little bit. I mean, I love the Jerry song. So, and I also did in this set list, I did try and do what the Dead normally did, and that's kind of like mix it up, like a Bob song, a Jerry song, a Bob song, a Jerry song, and then maybe throw in a Pigpen song and Brent song, whatever. I chose Althea. I love Althea. A lot of people do. I chose the Al Franken Long Straight Ship version from 5/16/80. And the 60 seconds of pure bliss during the final jam is what that one is really all about. But again, there's a lot of Altheas that are great to choose from, but I chose this one. So
yeah, I wish I could clip in that thing without getting it taken off of YouTube, of him pointing at the camera and talking about now you like the Hampton, you know what I mean? Like there's Althea is a song that like changes around. Like the early versions have this kind of like swagger. This tempo is much slower. Jerry's sort of playing at the back of the bar the whole time. And it has this really like that dark sunglasses during the daytime feel to me.
Yes, very well put.
Yeah. Like there's a whiff of trouble in both Althea and the protagonist of this song. They're a troubled couple. And like the later ones are a little more like, well, didn't work out, but I hope she's well, kind of thing. Like it brings a whole other like vibe to it. The late 80s, early 90s versions of Althea.
Well, there's something you said at the Speedy versions too. I love the version from Without a Net. So Jerry, kind of like that again, you probably know what the effect is, but he kind of has that echoey effect, and I love that on Althea as well, which he didn't do in the early 80s versions.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. He so that's the delay unit that he had, and it's funny. He had the same rig that we were talking about, where the potentiometer was on a foot pedal, so he could speed it up and slow it down with his foot, which was really clever. It allowed him to sort of create that slap back delay sound that you're talking about, where it's like one note, bing, bing kind of thing.
Yeah.
without a long trails that he would use like in Birdsong. Um, but the thing that it's funny. Althea was the first time I noticed that he's finger picking, but he's also using his pick. And Jerry had this. I mean, a lot of guitar players have this thing where they can tuck the pick, but because he had the missing digit, he could tuck it between his missing digit and get it out of the way very quickly. And it afforded him the ability to have both sounds in the same song. And that's what Althea brings me back to every time is hearing the finger picking and that note articulation of single note picked notes. Yeah, there's really nothing better than an early 80s Althea. And that one, man, that my understanding is that the Go to Nassau version, that's what got John Mayer interested in Grateful Dead music. Like it was that version. And like there's video of him playing the band did it at Citi Field when he played the Wolf guitar. And he's wearing like John is a fashion guy. He's wearing the black t-shirt, playing the Garcia guitar, and just playing the ass out of Althea. And it made the hair on my arm stand up. I mean, it was like, panning across this crowd of people my dad's age with their eyes closed, leaning back into the solo was like, wow, this is a real thing that's happening here. And that's really when I started taking Dead and Company seriously. So my point is like that song has got a lot of power to it.
Yeah, and to your point about Mayer, he really became a student of Jerry's. Took a deep dive, and I have nothing but the highest respect for that. So.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, I'm totally sold on the John Mayer phenomenon.
Yeah, he's all in. So I gotta respect that.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting very close to the end of the set. I promise it's probably longer than any realistic set would go. But this is my set. It's my dream set. I can do that. So.
Absolutely. Your rules.
Jack Straw. Got to put Jack Straw in there.
Yeah.
I really struggled about which version I was going to use, and the two that I was on the fence about. One is January 11th, 1979 at Nassau, which is that really hyper speed. Jerry's, just playing really fast and it's got a lot of energy. It's the used to play for Acid, now we play for Clive version. So that has specialness to it. And then there's the one from the Meadowlands on April 6th, 1987, which is just Phil just dropping bombs left and right. Jerry's guitar is squealing, and the band is just, full throttle. It was hard to not choose that one. I ultimately went with 111.79, and I could right now just change my mind in a second. But those are the two versions, very different versions, but just again, full throttle Jack Straws, and to me that's the way they should be played.
For sure. A friend of mine and I have this debate a lot about songs maturing as they go through their tenure with the Grateful Dead. And not that there's a bad version of some of these things, but like for example, the Roosevelt Stadium 74 Jack Straw, it's in the middle of the first set, and it's a little perfunctory. Like they hadn't figured out that they can like really extend that solo before they all come back and sing the last, the payoff line.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple bar solo. The tempo is much slower. And the reason I mention it is that it's the same lineup for that Nassau one that you is on your list. It's a Gotcho Jackstraw, and it's super high energy. It's sort of showing the way that the direction that song is going to go during the Brent years, which is really, I feel like, where it found its feet.
That started, it was very mellow, and then look what they did with it in '77. And Sugar Ray, same thing.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
To places later on as the song evolved. So yeah, I mean, I much prefer those two versions that I just said over. I mean, I know a lot of people they love Cornell and some of the '77 versions, but I don't think Jack Straw had quite gotten to where it needed to be in '77. It developed even after that. So
yeah, I agree. There's a great one in that Nassau 80 run too. That's really
from the Go to Nassau. That's a great one as well. Yeah. There's a lot of great Jack Straws. Really I think 79 is when it started to take off and started to, do its own thing.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, two more songs, and then the set is closed. Birdsong.
Mhm.
So I had to choose that. And I did choose the fan favorite, 82772. Had to give a nod to Vanita. It's, there's many great 72 versions of Birdsong. I mean, there's many great versions in the 80s as well. Um, but this one, it's just a little more transcendent than the rest, in my opinion, the Vanita one. Um, it just really hits all the right places. I love the drum break that they did in '72, where they come back into it, and Phil is just doing his Phil thing, and the jam just soars. Uh, so it's Vanita, the bird song that I chose.
It's classic version of a classic song for sure. They started differently back then too. That like open chord vamp,
Mhm.
very jazzy. It's like the single drummer dead sound too. Like it's like those versions are their own. It's like a different song from where it goes later on.
100%. And also, correct me if I'm wrong. I think back then it was in the key of D, and then
Yeah,
when it came back in the '80s, they moved it to E. Is that
that's
right?
absolutely right. Yep, yep, yep.
So,
Um,
and I wonder why they did. I kind of think maybe because playing the band was in D, and they didn't want to have two songs that they jammed out in D. I don't know. I'm not sure the reason for that, but maybe
yeah,
for vocals, for voice range. I don't know, but
Yeah, I've wondered that myself. I find it to be easier to play in E. The riff is it kind of the riff is very slightly different too. Like the head riff, he
mhm,
plays a little differently. I don't know like exactly what notes are different, but it's phrased a little different in the
yep.
early '70s versions.
Kind of the
Um,
way that Morning Dew is phrased differently on the first album versus the way it was later on.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think Ship of Fools changed keys too. There was it was sort of there was a flux of things, which
Mhm.
kind of makes you love it a little bit more. Like they were always willing to sort of tweak it a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so the set is closing with Music Never Stopped from April 24th, 1978 at the Horton Fieldhouse in Normal, Illinois. Um, 77 and 78 is, again, we talked about songs developing, and Music Never Stopped. That really, came into its being in, I believe, in 78 and 77 and 78 is when it really started to become a powerhouse and a set closer. So I chose that version.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a classic version of that song, and that show is awesome. There's a lot of threads to pull on. It's like the kind of the quintessential. I, I mean, it's a little bit of a hot take, maybe, but like sort of like the quintessential 1977 song. I feel like like the today's show opened up with it. Like
Yes.
it's just a banger. I mean, and they were playing it so tight. Everything about it was great. It has the time signature change. Like Donna's backup vocals are awesome. It's just pitch perfect.
And there's like the little Stacy part, the newly Stacy part, and then it goes into the overdrive with the outro jam. Yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. That's
So I have just two like outtakes that I'll share with you. They didn't, I would have put it in, but like again, it was already getting very long. So one outtake is I had to have some Brent type of representation. So I love Hate Pocky Way. So I chose that one from Madison Square Garden, 9/15/87. It's when it first came into the repertoire, probably a week prior to that. And to me, that's a great version. They actually first time I heard it was on the Grateful Dead Hour when the song was first came out. I love that version ever since. So it's tight, it's short. Brent takes a solo, Jerry takes a solo, and it's great. Um, and then the other song I chose also was the speedy version of "They Love Each Other" from 2/26/73, and it has that special um, what is it the bridge,
oh yeah, the
one.
part that they abandoned. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So those are two outtakes. I love those songs as well, but again, it was getting so long, I just couldn't include them. But I didn't want to not mention them. So yeah.
Yeah, you're making me rethink some of the stuff I put on mine now because it's pretty well rounded. Long, but just a wonderful selection of great first set Grateful Dead songs. You know, like that's kind of the whole thing. You know, like if you're gonna make a, I always think about that Voyager thing where they shot the message into space with an LP on it, like the weird picture of the naked man and woman. You know what I mean? Like super 70s thing that's still blasting out through space. Like being a Deadhead, like what would I put on it? You know, like something that looks a lot like this, probably.
All right. So for the first set opener, I'm my kind of heart lies in the 1980s with the Grateful Dead. That's really, you know, the Touch of Grey video came out in the summertime when I was 12 and really starting to kind of like emancipate myself from my parents' taste in music, who they had great taste in music. And my dad is who turned me on to the Dead. So like the seeds were planted and I was primed for that video to like kind of blow my mind and really get curious about this cultural phenomenon called the Grateful Dead. So my first set opener would be the 12/15/86 Touch of Grey, the Jerry's Back show. And I would recommend the audience recording. The one I liked the best was Andy Smith and Adam Lewis is who's credited with it. The soundboards are great, but the room goes fucking crazy the whole way through, especially on the last chorus. And it's it can make the hair on your arm stand up if you're ready for it in the right frame of mind. So that's the first set opener. That really it brings a smile to my face just talking about it.
Great choice. It's the probably most iconic 80s Grateful Dead song. So great choice.
Exactly. Moving on. This one is a little bit of a deep cut. It was a tape that you know, when you didn't have access to the internet and the panoply of live Dead, you had what you had, right? So you got very familiar with these little selections that just by hook or crook would come to you. So my circle of friends had very good quality tapes of a couple of the Europe 90s shows, which, you know, when I was in high school hadn't happened. That wasn't that far in the rearview mirror. It was almost contemporaneous Grateful Dead. It was the same lineup minus Bruce, but it was, you know, the Vince version of the band. So 10/27/90 has got like a reference Manglewood Blues. It's Scorcher. Jerry's solos on either side of the verses are amazing. The band had the mix on those recordings is really interesting and unique. Phil's like that, you can hear the strings like slapping against the fretboard the whole time. And Jerry's sort of in this like high mid-range sounding with the overdrive on. The piano's right up front in the mix, right where we want it, and just he smokes all the solos in that. It's just great.
That's extremely perceptive, and I have to listen to that Minglewood because in my frame of mind, you know, Minglewood was just it's Brent era because of his solo. So I don't really, when I reach for Minglewood, I rarely reach for a 90s Minglewood. So I will definitely seek that out. So
interesting. Yeah, interesting. I wouldn't have considered that the Brent solo really is a standout section of that. But yeah, okay. So still sort of sticking. Oh no, I'm sorry. We're gonna dive into the Gotcho version, but this is from the very last Keith and Donna show, 2/17/79, which was like a one-off gig in Oakland. I think it was a benefit show. It was the last time they played with the band. There's a lot of stuff to talk about this performance. They busted a few things out that night, but the Might As Well is just fantastic. I know the band probably wouldn't have played Might As Well in the third slot, but I really wanted to shoehorn something from this performance in, and I'm eager to hear what you have to say about 2/17/79, because that show really is something I came to later on in life, and I really enjoy listening to it.
Same. I also came upon it later in life too. I mean, I'd heard about it, and I know it was kind of a dark era for the band because you know, it was the Gotchas, you know, leaving. But as the more I delved into that winter tour, actually, I was like, wow. I was like, there's some really great stuff in there. That Miracle Shakedown from Springfield, of course. There's a Scarlet from 2/3/79. There's the Buffalo show which has Dark Star and the other one. There's the Nassau show, which also has Dark Star and St. Stephen. So there's some really good material out there. But to fast forward to 2/17, all of a sudden, there's all these bust outs. So it's kind of like, if you didn't know any better, you think, okay, well, they're trying new things and gotchas are here to stay, and they're going to continue on as they are. That show is great. I did discover it later in life also. I haven't listened to the Might As Well since I posted on my 31 days, which was back in February. But I seem to remember that Jerry really nailed it. It might be some like vocal theatrics on that, possibly. But that was a standout version of Might As Well. I think also the Lazy Lightning Supplication is fantastic, and one or two of the other bust outs, there's something special that happened on those as well. So it's a great show.
Yeah, Don't Ease Me In came back in the set for the first time since like 73, I want to say, or maybe 74. But yeah, right. It doesn't seem like the gotchas are going anywhere, and that was their last performance. And it ends their tenure on a like a really high note. Like it's really a special performance, I think.
I agree, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so back to spring tour, back to the East Coast, back to 1990 for Dr. Phil's birthday. It's time to let Phil sing Tom Thumb's Blues from Landover on 3/15/1990.
Another great choice.
It's pretty good. They let Phil sing, and I think at the very end, Jerry plays a little tag "Happy Birthday to You" at the end, or that might be at the end of Jackaro or something. But anyway, it's
yes,
it's great. I wore my Phil shirt just for that, just for Phil, just for you, Phil.
By the way, your No Nuke shirt, I think that was the benefit for 2/17. It was a No Nukes benefit, I think. So
I think you're right. I think you're right. I got this this spring at the Capitol. They had a whole bunch of merch, and I was like, I gotta get the Phil Baum shirt. That one, it's from another time and place. Okay, so really, this selection, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like mostly Brent era, but we do have a few offerings from Keith and Donna. My favorite Road Jimmy, Road Jimmy is like one of my favorite first set songs.
Yeah.
So I had to find a good version of it. I was really tempted to include the Knickerbocker one that's on Dozen at the Nick, but it couldn't really be a whole first set of Spring 90. So I went all the way back to the Duke.
Do whatever you want.
That's true. That one is great. That's definitely on the runner-up list. The samba outro and just Jerry, it's all great. The MIDI solos are fantastic, but I'm very partial to 4/12/78 at Duke University. The Road Jimmy is just awesome. The drumming is insane. It's a proto version of that like samba outro section. Like they really sound tight. Something about the way the percussion is like mic'd, or the way Healy live mixed it. It has this really great, like woody sound to it that I mean, I could crawl into that and take a nap for a week. It just sounds awesome.
And we have video of it as well on YouTube. And I love the vocal exchanges between Jerry and Donna during that samba section that you refer to. They're having fun with each other. Jerry's kind of like vamping with his vocals a little bit, and Donna is a little caught off guard, and she starts smiling, and then she kind of plays along with that too, and then they have some fun together. And it's great to see when the band is having fun like that.
Yeah, and it's to me it makes it almost a little more like everything is so documented to death now, and for better or worse, it just sort of is what it is. But those little nuggets from long ago, where you can kind of put it into context. I was talking to Blair Jackson last week about this show. I mean, it's really fit. Like the trucking with Jerry doing the Pete Townsend is really well known now, but he gets behind the drums either there or maybe at some other Southern show. And he's you wouldn't have known it just from listening to the tapes all these years. But when the video surfaced on YouTube, there's all these little great nuggets and moments of, long ago captured for posterity.
Yeah, that's so true, and it makes you wonder how much more we don't know about, because
Right.
there's so little video.
Right.
But we are fortunate to have that 78 video, and yeah, I mean, and you're also relying on people's memories. And I think there were, when that video surfaced, there were people that said, "Oh yeah, I was at a show in '78, and that's right, Jerry did go behind the drums." So it seemed like something he was doing during the drum section. And I think there's time also where Keith went behind the drums. It might have been during that tour as well.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a picture that I found. I think Rob Bleetstein, I think, posted it. It was his own personal picture, and
Wow.
it's a picture of Keith, drumming away. So he was doing it too. So
that's awesome. I mean, you know what? To circle back to that, like when O'Teal started going up on the drum riser, with the Dead and Company drums breaks, I didn't have any context for that as like having precedent, but sure enough, there it is, so they have a way of continuing to kind of like delight and surprise, all these years later. Okay. So there has to be a Dylan song in my first set anyway, and there's so many to choose from. There's Masterpiece is kind of like the ubiquitous Dylan number that I guess Masterpiece was really the first. The Grateful Dead doing Masterpiece is what actually opened up the world of Dylan to me. I came to Bob Dylan through the lens of the Grateful Dead, and now I've read a bunch of books about him. I have a ton of records, and I like anybody who likes music, I love Bob Dylan, but it was because of the Dead. So my choice for the Dylan slot, I'm hoping, is a little unorthodox. It's from the 1989 Alpine run. The Desolation Row is just out of sight. And the Weir gives a fantastic performance, but it's really Jerry who kind of steals the show. He can't really help himself, but singing these amazing backup vocals, sort of sprinkled throughout. And the line about the penny whistle, Jerry comes up as the band is kind of like coming out of, going into like a rest. His line of "you can hear it blow" like kind of echoes through the room, and there's even on the soundboards you hear the crowd react to it, and it's fucking awesome.
That it always brought it to the next level when Jerry was really feeling it, and he added some of his vocals where he normally wouldn't. And there's a version of Throwing Stones, where the breakdown toward the end, where sometimes Jerry would participate and other times not. But I think it's from one of the Dead Ahead videos, or the View from the Vault videos from '87 on the Dylan tour, and he really gets into it the same way you're talking about on the Desolation Row. So it really brings things to the next level, and he's feeling it, and the band is feeling it, and the crowd is really into it. So it's one of those great moments that just elevates a song to the next level.
It's exactly the kind of thing that keeps the casual head, and like I'd like to think somebody that doesn't know the band that well, of like, this is sort of what makes it special. It's not like a runway going out to the 50-yard line at a stadium. It's these little tiny shining moments throughout the 30-year panoply of the Grateful Dead. That's sort of the thing, and overturning them as a fan is what I love. So that's why that one is near and dear to my heart. Plus, there's great video of that too. That was on the Downhill From Here VHS tape, and that's how I discovered it. Was through that conduit.
Great pick.
Okay. Brown Eyed Women's all-time favorite. This is where the set kind of like there was a bunch of different ways to send things. I wanted to again shoehorn in a Peggy O maybe, but I love Brown Eyed Women. It's another sort of deep cut from the Vince era. 4/3/91 at the Omni in Atlanta. Just a really tight version from latter day Grateful Dead, and Jerry's solos and his picking and his singing. It's just a fantastic standout version. If I was going to make a live compilation CD, that would be on it.
Wow. I'm not familiar with it. I wish I had been April 3rd this year, because I would have put it on my I would have posted it on my account. I will not.
Yeah, next year. Yeah.
Definitely check it out.
Let's see here. Oh, it didn't take my edit that I made. I had, okay, so this was, I'm going to absolutely attribute this first to you. I'll do the runner up first and then the actual one. I had on my list the Augusta 84, 10/12/84 Music Never Stopped, because I really wanted something from that show. And maybe the second set. I don't want to spill, tease anything from what we'll put in the second set, but maybe we'll revisit that performance for the second set. But my choice so the song is Music Never Stopped, and really, I got to be honest, I had to go on to Hetty version and see what they had to say about it, just to kind of jog my memory, because there's so many standout versions. But 11/6/77 is tough to beat.
Yeah. 77 and 78 was kind of like that period where music never stopped, just getting, really fiery. And 11/6 is way up there as, a great version. So that's a great pick. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that the band was in fine form on that drive across I-90. They played, I don't know, like probably 4 nights from, Buffalo. They didn't make it to Albany, but like Poughkeepsie, Binghamton, coming down from Canada on the fall tour. That if I could invent the time machine, that might be where one of the places I would send it.
Show run. It's almost like, people talk about Boston, Cornell, and Buffalo, but in the same year in the fall, you had Colgate and Rochester and Binghamton. That's what it was. And
yeah, that's right. They're all just fire shows.
Yeah, they really are.
Okay, so we're taping this on the 17th of May. On the 16th of May, 1980, the Grateful Dead were once again in Nassau, and they ended the first set that night with an outrageous China Rider. And so I included that one. That was a show I wasn't aware of until they officially released it. But man, that China Rider is just a smoke show.
Oh yeah, for sure. Great China Rider, and I think anytime China Rider closed the first set, that always elevated China Rider. So I think to close the first set with China Rider, that made it special. So that's a fantastic version.
Yeah. So I have one addendum on here, and this is really kind of like I can do whatever I want here because it's
your show.
It's my show. All right. So it's another thing I discovered maybe during COVID. Like I like to think I know everything there is to know about everything. Turns out usually wrong about that. I fell in love with Valley Road. I think Bruce Hornsby was just the perfect choice of people to kind of buttress the band. I think Vince was in a really tough seat, and the band was in a tough place with tours booked, including a European tour. And they got Hornsby, and they worked up a couple of his songs. And Valley Road, the way the Dead do it, just I love it, and it's a great first set closer. My favorite version is from 12/9/90 on the European tour. I should have wrote down the venue. I think it's Essen, Germany.
Wait, no, 12/9. Gotta be 10/9 then. 12/9 would have been in
Compton Terrace. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Is that the version you're talking about?
Well, there was 2. I had it narrowed down to Tempe, which I had some quasi-attendance bias for because I saw Dark Star play that show last winter. I was up on the rail, and I saw them handing out sheet music, and I knew they were going to do Valley Road. I didn't know what show they were playing, but I was like, what do these guys need? Oh, my God, it's Valley Road. And the security guard came up. I lost my mind. The security guard comes up to me, and he's like, "You got your song, didn't you?"
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun. So anyway, the Tempe one's great. And then I think it's London. Oh, it is London. It's the night before Halloween, 1990, 10/30/90 in London. That's my pick to close the first set of the fantasy set.
Yeah, the Dead did that tune great. It did not sound like, you know, Bruce Hornsby band at all. They definitely made it their own, and it was, you know, driving version, and yeah, great, good, great. I love the set. Good call.
Thanks, man. I was a little nervous about doing this. I really feel like you've got this encyclopedic knowledge that just all these chestnuts on a daily basis. So I had to put my thinking cap on. But I'm, you know, these are the ones that I know well, that I can kind of like, if I was going to make a compilation, that's kind of how it would go.
Well, this is the great thing about talking with other fans, is that, I mean, there's things that are on your list that I wasn't familiar with. So I'm going to go, of course, listen to those. And that's what this community is all about, is, you know, sharing music. Hey, did you hear that? Did you hear that? You know, no. And it's like, whoa, that's amazing. Where's that song been all my life? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, not to like, this point has been so belabored, and I already kind of touched on it, but like the taping era, you had the tapes that you had, and it was finite. You know, like there were people that had these huge collections, but for me, I had maybe 80 tapes at my Actually, that's not true. At one point, I had one of those Napa cases full, but that was it. I had 100 tapes that I knew inside and out, and I was always hoping to find more. But you know, tapes were expensive. I was broke in my teens and early 20s, so a pack of, you know, blank Maxells was sort of a luxury.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to be able to stream anything that I want, but having that forced scarcity of really learning to love things that you had, that's something that was special to me.
I agree 100%. You know, I think it forced us at the time to listen to entire shows, as opposed to picking songs out and then moving on to a different show. You know, when you listen to a show in its entirety, it puts a lot of context to it. And I think that has definitely become lost in, I mean, there's of course, the huge pro of having live music archive is to have that access. But, you know, there's a big con, and that's just what we were talking about. You lose the context of a show. You may not listen to an entire show and appreciate, you know, when, again, it's a smaller collection, what you have.
Yeah.